No, we're good. But
Hello, and welcome to season 7 of Beats, Beds, and Browns. We are live at Karma Cigar Bar in Maryville, and we are hosting Justin from Region 5 Whiskey Distillery tonight to kick off season 7. If you're joining for the first time, this is the spot for hip-hop, gardening, and distilled spirits, your beats, your beds, and your browns. We've been going at it just over 3 years as we enter season 7. You're learning to grow. Check out our 30-day Get Your Garden Growing challenge. And if you're just starting your garden journey, visit our website, beatsbedbrowns.com. Make sure that you get your free seed kit. We'll ship anywhere in the contiguous area. We definitely want to provide thanks to our host tonight, Karma Cigar Bar, for opening their doors and creating this incredible atmosphere for culture, conversation, cigars, community, and craftsmanship. As we enter season 7, we're all about growth, real growth, the kind that takes patience, intention, consistency, and vision. And tonight's guests embody that energy perfectly. I'm going to bring Justin to the stage, and we're going to start every interview like we always do. A question: where are you at? Where you been? And where are you going?
well, hey Joe, it's a pleasure as always. I'm glad to be back here again, and now that we're actually sitting in a very sweet spot here in Maryville, Indiana, at Karma Cigar Bar and Lounge. I've been doing some traveling, as you know, personally, but as far as everything that anyone actually cared to know with the distillery, we've been researching. We're getting ready to do our next small batch, potentially some single barrel releases, not only for Region 5, but 1816 as well. And I'm actually looking very forward to the next couple of weeks. It's actually very exciting for us.
Congratulations and cheers to that. And thank you for joining us. I know we worked with the Gary Alphas, did an on-stage interview as well as you were providing sampling for that event. Let's start from the dirt. How did the 5 founders originally connect and come up with the idea?
So originally for the 5 founders, we all started just by friends of friends. We joined a Bourbon group through one of our founders, Rick, and we did some traveling together, some trips, hung out in similar circles, went on a variety of barrel picks for other vendors, for other celebrities, other private groups. And we kind of thought, well, you know what, if we're doing this for other people and we're actually very successful at it, we might as well do it for ourselves and see how we do. And a little over 2 years later now, and it's been going great for us, really well.
That's awesome. Thank you. And you talk about success being the driver for looking at the next steps. At what point did Bourbon become less about celebration and more about business?
I don't know if we even fully shifted the business as well. I mean, obviously everything starts with a business, but the one thing that we do uniquely for us is we curate every cocktail and blend and batch that we do. So we sit down, we go over it as 5 friends collectively together, still making sure to keep true to the fundamentals of our passion to then drive that product forward. I mean, obviously, yes, we have to still maintain and drive a business. That's why we still employ the social media, the websites, the advertising, all that good stuff. But I think really what drives our business is still that we have kept true to form of why we actually founded and started this. It's not just about the big dogs and this allocated pieces of things. It's more of like, you don't have to go far to find good juice. And so we, kind of operate in that gray area to making sure, we test barrels from everywhere, as long as it meets the same mash bill, yeast strand, and we proof it the same way. We just keep driving.
Love it, love it. And you know, I know Region 5 is 5 friends from the region. For those of us watching outside of Indiana, can you talk about the importance of the region rats, the locality? I mean, we're outside Chicagoland. We're our own entity here, but we are in proximity to one of the major metropolitan areas. We have our own unique brand of varieties.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody in Northwest Indiana, well, I'm going to generalize that statement a little bit, but every time somebody asks, "Oh, well, where are you at in Indiana?" It's like, "Oh, well, I'm in Northwest Indiana." You know, it's like the most northwestern tip I could be, and they're like, "Oh, so you're close to Indianapolis?" Like, well, no, that's like 3.5 hours southeast. So, you know, when you're trying to identify a landmark, you know, they're like, you say, "Oh, Gary," they're like, "Oh, like, you know, the capital dealings of the world." Like, no, like we're refined, we're better than that. So when you say we're close to Chicago, because again, like even where I live at, I could throw a rock in my backyard, hit Illinois, but core, literally, like I'm glad you said region rats. That's so funny, because that's really how we identify. You know, because again, it's like if you're navigating that border between Illinois and Indiana, especially coming out of like the suburbs or like from the city through the suburbs, you have to know the rat tunnels to get around. Like, because you're like, oh, I got a jam on the Dan Ryan, I got a jam here. Like, you have to know the side streets to where you can literally take the side roads all the way back home.
We're going to take it a little off script here and talk about directions as social currency in conversations with middle-aged men. And I'm going to put us there, middle-aged men. But, you know, I grew up with this. I don't know if it's just a Chicago phenomenon, but you talk about, yeah, did you take 9094 or the Bishop Ford or 294, 355, the Ronald Reagan Expressway? Like, these are things that people use as social currency. Talk to me about that.
Oh, man. So I'm going to have so much haters from Northwest Indiana about this. So I've always, small brain person, I always go with the numbers, especially like, you know, I was active duty military up until a couple of years ago. And every state you go to, you always get like the download from like your predecessor.
Cheers
like,
to your service. Let's not go without recognizing that. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the veterans out there. Thank you for being the man that I could never be and volunteering and serving your country.
Oh, man. I volunteer Army. I'm glad to be here. It brought me to meet nice folks like you and be where I am today. So like before I moved back out to the Midwest in 2020, I spent the last 6 years in California, into where I was told you had to say the 10, the 210, the 57. It was like a thing. And I never really dwelled upon that, especially living in the Midwest. But I always heard the same thing, like, oh, well, it's a Dan Ryan or it's a Kennedy or it's a Scott. But then I also hear the numbers. And I'm like, oh, well, that still registers the same way. But for me, I use the numbers. I know it's a cardinal sin for most, but here we are.
Yeah, you get to know the grid, you get to know the streets, expressways, and you can get around for sure. So you referenced a couple times being a craft distiller, not chasing the allocated barrels. Break down a little bit of behind the curtain mystery here, because you know I read Pappy Land. I understand that after the Stitzel Weller barrels dried up, everybody's shopping out of the same marketplace and picking up barrels. How do you define that as a craft distiller, carving out a brand and making sure that what we're drinking, 1816 rye from Region 5, is top notch? How do you make sure that you're putting out a great product in that?
So again, I think that goes back to the curation of our spirits, right? So we're still newer in the game. And so 1816 and Region 5 are under the same umbrella of the distillery, but they are still separate entities. So one being a high rye, the other one being technically a higher rye, being at that 21%. But actually going through and having a taste profile, you know, because like you'll see like Brown Foreman, a lot of these other distilleries, like they actually have master tasters. It's like dumb as that sounds, because everyone's like, well, I could be a master taster. It's like, well, no, you're probably just a lush or an alcoholic. And like, no, but you're actually looking for those notes, like everything from nose to palate to late palate, mid palate, like all these different nuances that actually drives what your whiskey is going to taste like. Because again, the beauty of whiskey is it's all naturally acclimated, right? So something that was in a barrel 10 years ago versus 10 years from now, they still be very different. Also, the trees that made that barrel could be different. You know, char levels, like that's, you can have almost the same ingredients in it, but will still taste very different just by even simply moving the barrel in a rickhouse. So I think that's really what drives us, because even our first small batch we did of our 6 year, an example, was a 5-barrel blend, and it was all 6 year true to form. And the current one that's on the shelf is a 3-barrel blend, and it tastes pretty much the exact same. We want to keep that notes. We want to make sure that you're getting that same quality product every time, and that requires the guys who created it to have that same palate moving forward.
Two things. One, I've realized every time I look at you, Justin, I'm looking away from you on screen. So we're gonna fix that next time. We're gonna jump. So when I'm making eye contact with them, I'm actually looking away from them on the screen. The other, for all you taters out there who think that you can be a master distiller, taste tester, try explaining your whiskey without using the word smooth, right? Draw the line right there. So what tasting notes do you gravitate towards, and how does that differ from your four partners? And what challenges does that present when you're selecting barrels to fill bottles?
So I think with me and the partners, our biggest, I don't want to use the word struggle, but what struggle or intelligent argument we like to have is, I think we taste the same. We just use different elements to describe. Where like, oh, well, I get plum or I get fig. Like that's like two very common denominators. So because we hate going down the, oh, well, I get caramel, I get vanilla, like all these I could read this on the bottle of X whiskey for everybody the same thing. So I really think that's kind of what's important of like making sure we fully understand where, because again, a lot of the times we'll have a nosing kit, we'll go to, palate, and we're like, well, I get this, we'll compare it with the nose to it for what some of the things that yeast strain will produce to, kind of have that differentiation and making sure we are actually knowing what we're talking about. Because I mean, sometimes, because again, there's a reason the five of us too is it's kind of nice because there's always going to be a tiebreaker, but we try to do everything where it's unanimous in that regard. So it does get to be a challenge because we do fight like brothers and we are still grown man children, and that's how it goes.
Grown man children chasing the dream. Love it. For newcomers, I mentioned taters. It's kind of a derogatory term for someone new to tasting whiskey. I'll confess I'm more of a tater than an expert. We're bringing people along on the journey, whether it's emerging hip-hop artists, garden interests, or bourbon, being able to identify taste notes. For newcomers to whiskey culture, like myself, how do you recommend we approach tasting for whiskey?
So if you're newer to whiskey or alcoholic spirits, as it were, ours is a little bit higher, so all our small batches are 106 proof. There's a fun Easter egg in that. If you guys know, if not, go to social media. Joe will tell you about it because I talked to him about it. He really loved that story last time we met, or it's on our homepage if you can find it. Typically a lot of people, especially at 106 proof, if you're used to the 90s or even some of like Irish whiskeys and some of these other brands that are on the shelf, they're definitely 20 to 30 points lower. You don't think that's a lot until you have it and you're like, wow, this is ethanol. Like this is straight, like, because you're just not used to tasting it. I would tell you the first way to start, just like a typical whiskey, anybody that's been to a distillery or if you read about it, they tell you, if it's very strong in your first hit, take a little bit of water in your mouth, then take a sip of your whiskey, let it sit, let it wash over your palate, kind of get you warmed up to it. After that, you take a little bit less water to it until you can kind of actually start feeling some of those notes. But it does actually, for me, it starts with the nose. Out of like a Glencairn glass, do everything neat. I mean, I do like higher proof stuff. Like, usually typically the threshold is 120 or better. But I know that's not everybody's jam, but that's, how it goes. You give a blow through the glass so you kind of air out that ethanol, then you start picking up the different, sections of that nose, as it were. You go low to high on it, mouth open, so you can get more of it to wash over the tongue, and just start comparing that to like your brain's automatically going to pick up on like, hey, I think this tastes like this. Just like anything, it's what you take a sip of something like, oh, if I ordered a vanilla coffee or a vanilla latte or something like that, and it's like, well, if I drink it and I don't get vanilla, well, somebody's either lying or I don't know, maybe that vanilla is not within my palate structure. But yeah, I would say the easiest way is still just with a little bit of water, wash it down, and then until you can get used to that proof, and go from there. Like I tell anybody, the only wrong way to drink whiskey is to not drink whiskey. So if you like it in a cocktail, you like an old fashioned, you like it neat, no wrong answer. And your answer is always going to be unique to you, because if we were all the same in our palate and nose and everything, then it would all taste the same and there'd be a very niche market for it, as opposed to all the different craft distillers that enjoy this.
Absolutely, and I love it. You restrict your tastings to 120 and above. Outside of yours, 106. Love the story behind that. Be sure to check it out. We'll share that Easter egg later. What's a misconception people have about bourbon?
I really think kind of what I was just talking about, the where I think everybody just tends to think if you're not a whiskey drinker, like a neat whiskey drinker, even in old fashions, it's just, well, it's really strong. It's like, yeah, it's a greater alcohol content by volume, but it, I look at it as like when you turn 21 and you have your first alcoholic beverage ever. You know, if you've never been drinking until that first time you ever have an alcoholic beverage, everything's going to taste strong. You know, beer's going to taste terrible, wine, all that stuff. Like it's very rare. Like some people come out of the gate swinging with an alcoholic beverage, so they're like, I really enjoy this. You kind of adapt to it. It is what it is. I know it could probably be argued 6 different ways from Sunday in that regard, but I really think it's more of, it's not that it's strong, it's just unique to you. You haven't experienced it, so you have to try it. And it might not even be for you, that's okay too. I mean, I'm not a wine drinker, as it were, or a big beer drinker. Whiskey's always been my jam.
Me too. It's a wedding song, Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
My favorites. Yeah. It has been for years, and the deeper I get in, the more I explore the depth of flavors and the different profiles, how different things aging and where different things are produced. It really elevates the experience to be able to can versus drinking free drinks at a wedding.
Yeah.
So we actually met at a fundraiser for Co-Action, and you guys were there sampling and providing spirits for the attendees. Then we crossed paths again and came up with a concept for this live stream with Han at Karma Cigar Bar at a Gary Alpha's fundraiser. Why? How important was community to getting you to where you're at? How important is continuing to invest in the community as you guys grow throughout the community?
Well, I mean, everything we do, again, it's still all about Northwest Indiana. Like, we're all from Northwest Indiana. We've all come together over whiskey in Northwest Indiana. Our distributors out of Northwest Indiana, we support all events that we possibly can. So community is kind of like the one big staple that we have that kind of outshines everything outside of what you would get in Chicago. So it's like, yeah, it's too easy to, spend a few $1,000s to get put on somebody's bar, as opposed to building a relationship with the bar owner or managers like Han and all these guys at Karma to like enjoy your product. Like, we're for the community, by the community, so embrace your community. Like, that should be at its core value for us, at least.
Does operating regionally throughout Northwest Indiana present challenges in attempting to build a premium brand? If so, what are they?
I actually don't feel that is, because there's even the name escapes me right now, but there's a liquor store in Florida that one of our followers and biggest fans frequents, and he was able to order Region 5 down there because it's one of his favorite cocktails. And I was like, that's great, but because when I seen an order, I was like, well, who the heck is in Florida and why they're ordering it? I mean, I shouldn't question it, but I want to know why, because again, I like to know the story, just like our story and what we talk about, what brought it down there and why. And thank you for us. And that's why we try to do these events. Like, we're here at Karma. Karma has us on a bar. They have our 6-year small batch or 9-year small batch and partnered 1816 rye. Again, you can order a whole bottle service here, which is really cool about a cigar bar. I'm still very novice in this cigar bar scene, but I thought that was great. You can have a whole bottle of something, come in here, enjoy it with your friends, introduce it to more folks, and then take that story forward. So, I mean, we've had people in California, Colorado, all over the country, as it were, still trying to establish us as a brand there, and I appreciate that, because again, at its core value, it was somebody from the Midwest that took that forward.
Yeah, let's not forget that for those of us local who are tuning in, you can stop by Karma Cigar Bar in Maryville, Indiana. $1 off smokes, $2 off shots, and Region Whiskey is actually here pouring samples. So stop by, try before you buy, and make sure to indulge. Justin, Kristen, and I will be here after the interview for a brief period, and I know Karma is open until 10 p.m. tonight. So nights like tonight are all about slowing down and appreciating the process. How important is whiskey to that experience? Cutting back, turning off the laptop, sitting outside by a fire, lighting a smoke. What role does whiskey play?
I mean, cigar and bourbon is like peanut butter and jelly. Like, at least for anybody who's acclimated to it, like that's your vice. Like, that's what you do. I mean, I don't want to go into the science of how alcohol is a depressant, and it kind of, washes some things off of you. But I mean, it's really kind of at its core value. I mean, it's been a staple. Like, you always see like portrayed in movies, magazines, a tale as old as time, as it were, of that handshake of a cigar and bourbon. And like in the vibe in here, like you can kind of see even behind us, like the very low light setting. We're very fortunate that you and I are positioned at the front of the place, so we have some natural light to come in and give it, because I think in another hour it would be very hard to see either one of us right now without some proper lighting. But I mean, you see a lot of folks in here. I mean, I'm not going to say who, but there are a couple of politicians in here. There's some executives in here, and then there's also schmoes like myself. Like, I am the schmo that kind of definitely does not church up the place by any means, but it works.
Cheers
out
to
really
the schmoes out there. Definitely a part of the experience is the people. I've always had good experiences, met people from Division I basketball coaches to politicians to business owners. I've networked my way into connections at a cigar bar. And again, we're here at Karma Cigar Bar in Maryville. We're live tonight thanks to their gracious hosting ability, as well as Justin and his team at Region 5 Whiskey, providing samples and discounts at the bar. So, relaxing, smoking, sipping. What are we playing? What type of music are we listening to?
Ooh. So if it were me personally, selfishly, I have a speakeasy in my house that the wife and I have worked on since we've lived there. It's still up and coming because, again, the chores never end as a homeowner ever. But the great thing about where the speakeasy is in my house is that no cell phone, no Wi-Fi works there, ironically. Like, it is perfect. So I have 2 high back chairs with a Bluetooth speakers. That is the only signal you can get in and out of there. I put on a 1940s playlist. Like, we're talking Andrew Sisters, we're talking something like Buddy Rich and his band. I know it's a little bit more common, but just like smooth, older jazz, just very classic. Think World War II era, because again, me being the vet, I have like such a nostalgic affinity for World War II and everything like that generation had to offer. But I'll have a cigar, I'll have a bourbon, I turn that on, lights go low, and just, it's a vibe. It really is.
I love it. I actually love 1940s music. That's usually my Sunday morning vibe. Cooking breakfast for the family, relaxing. It just as easily be entertained with a smoke and a whiskey on Saturday evening. So I'm a Billie Holiday for that.
Oh, okay.
Nina Simone. Man, you just feel that sound. It resonates very deeply.
Well, it's funny is I know, like, even fundamentally, like, for what you're all about with what you do here, like especially with hip hop and everything, like, I'm sure, like, I think it just might, I don't know if it's our generation or not, not to date us as, the 40-year-old males, but your iPod or whatever your play history or whatever your streaming platform is can go from like really rad to possibly really embarrassing really quickly if you have everything on shuffle. And I am totally guilty of that. Oh, I lost you.
I hit the wrong button, guys. It's a rookie mistake here in season 7. Yeah.
Leaving me hanging.
At Beats, Beds, and Browns, we talk a lot about patience and cultivation. That's ingrained in everything we do as farmers and growers. What similarities do you see between the production process, the aging process, and coming up with a good bourbon and growing food?
I mean, because again, it's all the care that goes in your core product, right? I mean, there's some distilleries that'll go completely grain to glass, which is awesome. We're very small, we're very new, we're not quite there yet, but that is the end state, that is the goal. Especially in anything in a high rye product, like Indiana has the best rye, bar none, especially when it comes to straight rye whiskey or even something in that higher rye whiskey. And that starts with the farmers, because again, the farmer didn't care about the product and the grain that was going to go into somebody's body, like then it would translate into alcohol and whiskey and any other thing they have. So I think it's a very much hand-in-hand situation, because even most distilleries, like after they have their white dog and they actually make like everything that goes into that barrel, that leftover grain, is oftentimes recycled as feed. So I mean, if it's good enough to not only go to us, but then like the fact that like the leftover product is still good in a meal to go to animals that still continue to supply everything through a food chain, like, is impeccable. Like, I mean, that's one of the greatest things I think about whiskey, or, you know, producing alcohol.
Great. Resonating with me in that is, you know, trying to build something authentic, which I know takes effort and intentionality, especially as a craft distiller. Trying to cut through the fray and the hundreds of millions of dollars of marketing budgets. What would you recommend to someone trying to build something authentic in today's rapidly moving culture?
I would think just be true to yourself. Like, realistically, again, we're 5 guys from Northwest Indiana. You know, you could be 5 dude or dudettes from Colorado, California, France. It doesn't matter. But whatever you find at your core for your values and like why you want to do this, like, because you have to have the passion, right? This isn't just by any means, like we see the news of like, you know, well, Buffalo Trace had a, you know, whatever that millions of dollars expansion that they did, and you know, there's big guys who want to like overproduce and do things like that to saturate the market or drive a good product that's a good brand and what they actually do. But even for us, we're like, you know, like, we're not that big. We have dreams of getting big, but it starts locally, right? And you always want to, like, whatever you can do organically, true to your values, that translates to your target audience, like, is going to grow your brand exponentially. You'll always have setbacks. That just is business 101, right? But I really think that just staying true to yourself and why you started this and continue to go forward. You know, none of us take a paycheck. We're 100% reinvest in everything that we do. And because again, we want this to succeed, not only just for us, but for the family and friends that we have that believed in us, who are also enjoying this, and even our new family and friends that we've met along the way, you know, trying to make sure we're still on the shelf somewhere and that they're still enjoying a quality product.
You've spoken a lot about the agility in a small business and in building a brand in competition with the big dogs, right? Multi-million-dollar marketing budgets, production budgets, etc. Talk to me about the declining alcohol sales and how you build a brand against those big dollars while less and less 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds are, you know, it's a mocktail culture,
right,
man. It's not for me, but how do you guys face that challenge?
Oh, that is a very loaded question. I could go so many different ways with it. I mean, whether you want to go after tariffs or the fact that, you know, bourbon sales are slower. I mean, that's common knowledge. You can look into that, especially, you know, for like the 1816, you know, out of all the whiskey drinkers in the world, only 4% drink rye. So it's like, why would you want to try to own and market a rye brand? Well, because I would say the same, but, you know, there was a hole in my glass. I don't know what to tell you about it. No, it's fine. Well, it's fine. But yeah, we don't have those things. But I think, again, kind of piggybacking off the last couple of questions of staying true to your brand and like what you want it to be, and like people see that, right? Because again, we don't employ anybody else but the 5 of us. Like when it comes to, you know, well, obviously I have to have somebody to print labels physically, but our design, our tasting notes, our website, our social media is one of 5, if not a conglomerate of all 5 of us putting in that work and putting in that effort. And I think people see that and they understand that more. Like, granted, we might not have the cheat codes to always beat the algorithm and be viral in that top dog thing, but we have had success. In 2024, the American Distiller Institute gave us double gold. Wine Enthusiast magazine, which is a worldwide, you know, magazine, gave us a gold medal for our 9-year and gave us a silver medal for our 6th year. So we know we're on the right track. It's just keeping pressure on. Like, you know, we have to keep the momentum up. We just submitted for San Francisco World Spirit Competition. That kicks off in the next couple of weeks, so we're hoping to hear some good news out of that once that convenes. And it's just still trying. It's isolating kind of those target sets of, well, I want to make sure, like, not only do we support events like this with Karma, who are like people who believed in us and to say, you know what, you're local, we're in, great. That's why we're here. That's why we support events like this or do events like this, but also making sure that we get it in front of the people who could possibly get it into, you know, the hands of everybody else in the world.
Yeah, every inch of shelf space is a battle at this level. You know, a team of 5 handling marketing, distribution, production. dividing that labor is probably something you need the fifth person to know that. Can you talk about how you guys use the tiebreaker in deciding some of those things?
So we have recently had a paradigm shift. Some good friends of ours who were originally started the 1816 brand that gave us our break to get into the market, introduced us to Carol Wine and Spirits, who is our distribution, and kind of really put us on the map to actually start, and believe in us that we're like, hey, we know you guys do good. We're doing it for ourselves, so why don't you guys come on board and give us our break? We have now shifted to a different ownership in that regard, but still making the same great product. And we talk daily. We have, not only just like a typical Zoom meeting or stuff like that, but we text, because again, we're friends, we're brothers. We're like, hey, listen, this is what's coming up. We just make sure we keep tabs on it. And like all five of us go somewhere different, because even in our regular backgrounds, we're all unique, right? So again, like I was military, we have data analytics, we have retail owners, to where we just have to keep that drive going. But we come to the table with different events. That's like how we got met at the prior event in Hobart, to where, I never in 1,000 years would have been out there for an event like that if it were up to me and something within my wheelhouse. But Eli, one of our other partners, brought that forward and said, hey, this is a great cause. We need to do this. I was like, well, hell yeah, let's go. And kind of just keep the pressure on that way. We pick it up. If one of us falters or we struggle, we make sure to say, hey, listen, I'm unavailable for XYZ. No problem. One of us is always there to fill. Gladly.
Another throughput in artists, distillers, and growers is family time. And you're talking about the struggles of who goes where, who does what, begging off for priorities. How do you prioritize family while you're working a full-time job, trying to grow a brand and still make time for what's really important?
Well, fortunate for all of us, all of our spouses believe in what we're doing and like why we're doing it. So like even like you met my wife Christina, she's over there actually doing Region 5 and 1816 samples. I know you can show from your phone, but she's over there right now with one of our other partners. Not as a pusher, but just like an introductory, right? So she knows everything. I mean, even the last few single barrel pours and dumps we've done, everything from once it came out of the barrel to going into the box to go out to a retailer, my wife and I did. But also, every single one of us has had like that kind of luxury. So it's been kind of nice. And like we all talk and we all openly communicate. Again, the hardest part is communication, right? So it's as long as everybody's true to form and communication, providing like, hey, listen, it's the anniversary weekend. So obviously I'm not going to do anything with whiskey to maintain my anniversary if I want to have another one the following year or whatever kid's birthday. And oftentimes not, like, there's nothing more important than like the core foundation of the five of us. Because again, if it's one of our kids' birthday or a spouse's birthday, like we're celebrating and partying and doing this together. Like, yeah, a lot of people from the business side would be like, well, it's a terrible idea. But it's like, well, not really. Because again, it still shows like we were very, founded in why we started this to begin with.
Yeah. And again, part of that is building relationships. And again, I just want to scan the bar here to get Christina in there. And she's over there doing the work of sampling a full house here on a Wednesday night. Unbelievable. Cigar whiskey culture, what the culture around community does for different organizations. And again, family. Do you guys personally, or as a group, do you look at growing? Do you get into growing? Do you get into sourcing specific grains from different regions? Talk to me about that.
So yeah, I mean, everything we do is like with the further goal of trying to get from not just like the producing of somebody else's juice that we've already been able to get basically to getting our own still and doing everything. But again, we are small. We're five guys, with all very much bills and responsibilities, just like anybody else. We're not a multi-million-dollar corporation by any means, but we have to start somewhere. And that's fine to do. You look at a company like Whistle Pig, they were sourcing up until just a few years ago. And now they have their own still, they have their aged spirits and going. I mean, everyone tries to do that rough math of, well, wait a minute, you've only been in this a little over 2 years, but you have a 6-year-old, 9-year-old product. How does that work, right? So again, we've, partnered with a lot of distilleries that actually, sell barrels off and they've been gracious hosts. Everybody in this community, because from not only brokers, but even like a big distillery like Bardstown, have welcomed us with open arms, have brought us through tastings, given us, samples to, hey, we want to make sure that we support your brand the best way we possibly can. And I think that's what's been kind of one of the great things about this.
You mentioned Whistle Pig and somebody again who's mirroring your guys' production schedule. When you talk about acquiring a distiller, sorry, what is that? Is that 3 years? Is that 5 years? Do you talk about plans for beverage tourism, spirits tourism? Like, what are you guys looking at in the future?
A lot of that is still very much up for debate. So, I mean, again, 2 years, we're hoping within, I am very optimistic in what we're doing. I put a lot of drive and a lot of passion behind this. That's why I'm at most of these events, and I would go out of my way for anybody and anyone as far as on and off premise to, again, drive a product I very much believe in. I'm hoping within the next, it's kind of far, but 3 to 5 to actually start having our own still and produce, or actually distilling ourselves and getting it off the ground. I mean, we're just a humble spot out of Rensselaer, Indiana, as far as where the actual production and magic happens. It's nothing customer forward, but it's very much still important to us, but it's enough to actually get us out there to where we don't have to pay money and contracting other people. But again, keeping it to the core values of us and our palates and our profiles. We get barrels in, and sometimes it's not that it's a bad barrel, it just doesn't meet the quality that we like. So we'll let it age longer. We have a couple barrels already right now that are crossing almost a 12-year threshold, because it wasn't that it was bad, it just didn't meet profile. And we want to just put something out that's going to be a shock and all. Like, what are the Region 5 guys doing? Because this does not match the last bottle we just had.
So as we round third base here on the interview, I appreciate you guys. If you're not here at Karma Cigar Bar in Maryville, get down here. Again, $1 off cigars, free tasting of Region 5 whiskey, 1860 rye, $2 off cocktails. Make sure you swing by on Wednesday. Stop in, say hello, meet some people, be a human being, figure out. What do you guys have to say? I've been asking a lot of questions. Talk to us about things you want to cover and how people can connect with you.
Our biggest thing is our social media. We're a little bit more active on our Instagram over all the other social media platforms, but through our website, we do have email and contact information that reaches all of us. It goes to every single one of our phones. Otherwise, again, with how embedded we are in the region, anybody that carries us probably has one of our cell phone numbers and can call us or text us on the spot and get us in touch. So that's, again, one of the nice things about being true to form and keeping organic to how you want to see your growth. But no, I appreciate you hosting again and hit me with these great questions. I always feel very nervous and in the wind when we talk about these things, because I never know what I'm going to get. But they've been great questions, and thank you, Karma, for hosting us. They're, like you said, they're doing deals tonight. Especially if you're a member of this bar or you come here a lot, they're even doing big discounts on bottle service for you to have in your locker going forward. I'm looking at our 9-year for a bottle that was normally $240. They have marked down to $192. Our 1816 from $160 to $128, and our 6-year from $169 to $136. So great deals. And again, people that believe in us and they want to make sure to keep us going and keeping everybody in the loop.
Amazing story. Amazing time here live at Karma Cigar Bar. If you're not here, get here. If you're not getting here, be here later. Huge appreciation to Karma Cigar Bar for hosting us tonight and helping us launch our 7th season in style. Major love to Justin for Region 5 whiskey for calling up and sharing your story, your knowledge, and your craftsmanship with the community. To everybody watching, keep planting seeds, keep building community, keep creating and growing through every season of life. This is Beats, Beds, and Browns. Good gardens, good drinks, good people, good energy, and friends. Thanks, guys. I'm going to take Justin into the green room, and we're going to go ahead and close out the show.